Welcome back to Morning Cafe on TV47, the home of untold stories. I have three gentlemen with me here in studio. We're going to talk about matters politics, but before that, we're trying to unravel the puzzle of the daring prison break at Kamiti Prison. Mheshimiwa, you're saying something about collaboration and probably an inside job.
Yes, and I'm even looking at the 4 hours upon which they discovered within 4 hours that they've already escaped. I think it was a very calculated thing to make sure that even when you go after them, probably within 4 hours, they will be en route to some place. Probably those are proper calculations towards that. So I'm looking at the 60 million that have been placed over their heads, and I'm thinking, wouldn't we have used that money to probably enhance on our security systems, the CCTVs and what have you? So I think we have a big problem in terms of the way we handle our prisons. I did see yesterday Matiang'i looking very remorseful and promising that we're going to do much, in terms of beefing up security within prisons. But the question that begs for an answer is, for all that time between 2020 and today, with 26 prison breaks, haven't we learned something? I love the zeal that Mudi Awori had, when he was a Minister of Home Affairs. He had put so much into prisons, and he is actually the person who brought in most of these changes that we see, and in terms of beefing up security and whatever. So I think there's quite a lot that is to be desired, and it is really unfortunate that we'll have officers who collude with terrorists to begin with. And we're not talking about just simple people. We're talking about people who aided, the bombing of Garissa University. We're talking about this lawyer guy who is an expert in bomb making. So I think these are dangerous people who are out on the run. And seeing, as alluding to what my brother here said, what we saw in Kampala yesterday, then we are worried a lot. I have seen today, I passed through Kiambu Road, and they've put roadblocks everywhere. But look at the laxity that they were manning those roadblocks. A couple of us would pass without being perused, And we're talking about trying to curb terrorism, probably searching for where, they could probably be en route and probably searching in vehicles whether they can get the terrorists or whatever. But if you look at the laxity, it opens up another door, again, when you man roadblocks for, police to extort people and whatever. So I think we need to be more aggressive when looking at security issues. So I want to ask my brother Matiang'i, there is a lot to be desired.
Okay. Yes. Over to you, Bwana Mongare. Yes. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think I will associate my thoughts with the two co-panelists here, that there is need for fundamental reforms and thorough investigation in this particular case, because it is isolated only to terrorists who have been convicted. And how come it is only these 3 particular terrorists who have committed heinous crimes against murdering thousands of people? So this is something that calls for thorough investigation, and it must be speedy, and we must also be told not just the remorseful words from the cabinet secretary. It must come with an assurance that these people are going to be found, and then they must be taken back to jail. Because if you leave these people free, and if they are not found, then you never know when they're going to attack next or plan another attack. Okay. So there's need to reach out to our friends who have better capacity in terms of getting hold of these people. This is where we need to collaborate with our international partners who have this capacity to search. If you talk to the Interpol or the CIA or these other friends that we collaborate in terms of the security agreements, they should be able to tell us or help us in searching for these people.
Okay. So we move on the top corner of the Daily Nation right there, on the right top corner. Madam Governor Kananu has been sworn in as the city boss. She becomes the first woman to be the governor of Nairobi after a 10-month wait. This situation mirrors the one that was in Kiambu.
Yes.
The governor was impeached, and then the deputy took the reins of power. And that's the reason why I want to start with you. Your reaction to that, Mheshimiwa?
I think Kanadu is not going to do much. One of the things that I'm looking at is we're looking at 9 months, and then we're looking at Nairobi. She does not have a direct mandate of the people to begin with. And then she has 9 months, and she has declared her interest in running for the governor. So you're looking at every person who wants to be re-elected, or rather assigned to the seat of governor, have already moved to the ground to campaign. So I'm looking at how she's going to do, balance. You know, there's a very thin line between her campaigns for governorship and delivering. Again, you look at Nairobi, you know, I love what I've seen in the dailies today. I love what I've seen in the cartoon, that Bandi is here and then Kananu has come in and she's in a cage.
Like a puppet.
So she's just going to be a puppet. I don't think she's going to do anything much than what she's done. You know, she has mentioned about bursaries and what have you. You know, these are roles that will still have continued being done because there's a CEC in charge of education or what have you. But in terms of her grip to power, in terms of enjoying what governors enjoy, in terms of that discretion that you know, a governor has in terms of running the county, she may not have much. NMS is there. The court declared it illegal, but you know, of course, the office of the president and Bandi has continued staying in office, you know, irrespective of a court order. You know, so that tells you the kind of country that we have. So Kananu would have ascended to power, of course, through not a direct mandate of the people, and therefore she's not going to enjoy, you know, the direct, you know, acceptance of the people. Because to me, I think we, and I've always said this statement again when we're doing these shows. I've said we need to relook at the County Government Act in terms of when a governor exits office and the deputy governor is ascended to office, and more so when the governor is exiting office, whether on allegations of corruption or review. Where is the role of the people? Because it is the people that woke up and voted for their governor. You know, I've looked at public participation, which is was properly enumerated by Justice G.V. Odunga.
The people voted for their governor, but they also passed the referendum.
Yes, they did. But you see,
and that was one of the provisions.
It is one of the provisions. I'm saying, you know, once you start rolling out a constitution, you know, it is in the rolling out that, you know, deficits are realized. You know, this is one of the loopholes that I've always seen. Like, for example, in the case of Waititu, 800,000 people woke up and voted for him. Right? When it was being hosted by some 56 people. There was not even, I still insist to date, because in that assembly there was no quorum. So where does that leave the people of Kiambu in terms of making that decision? I think there should be a more proactive way of getting back to the people and probably having signatures appended upon, you know, the document that appears in the assembly to oust a governor. I think that way you involve the people, because there is always a connection between, there is always a relationship between people who went to vote for a person and that person in terms of delivery. So I wish Kananu well. I don't know what her priority will be, because of course she's going to now start rearranging her government. She did not have the powers to do that. Probably going to see her move certain CCs from here out there, or probably oust some. And the other challenge that Kananu has is the county assembly. She has one of the most you know, divided county assembly. So she has a responsibility of making sure that within that short time, because in terms of registration, in terms of a budget making process, because she really needs the assembly to look at the ADP, to look at the budget, to look at, you know, the entire budget making process, and that needs you know, a cohesive assembly. So I think our first duty should be to bring the assembly back together. Remember, the members of the county assembly again are hitting the ground, you know, to go look for votes. So it's going to be a very delicate situation for Kananu, but all the same, we cannot reverse that. I can only just wish her well and the people of Nairobi well.
Very briefly, what's the situation like in Kiambu?
No, Kiambu, we've moved on. You know, we've realized that once your father remarries, you know, or your mother remarries, and the person who marries your mom, you are bound to call him dad. So we have accepted that Nero is the governor, and we have no other option but to just work with him. And I think we're rolling out some good projects, and we're trying to do a good job. So politics aside, devoid of his political affiliation, devoid of my political affiliation, we have people to deliver to. Okay. So therefore we must come together in the budget making process, in all those processes, and make sure we work in unity and cohesion to make sure that we take Kiambu to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So Mheshimiwa Gakuya, Mheshimiwa here has spoken very personally about you know, the NMS, and there's an opinion cartoon that showed that you know, Madam Governor would be a flower girl, a caged governor, a caged governor, as he calls her. On page 12 of the Daily Nation, we are seeing that there's been budget cuts for the Nairobi Metropolitan Service. So as you react to that, I would want to hear your thoughts on that. Could this mean that now NMS mandate is over?
Thank you very much. What I would say is that the process to have the finality stages of allowing the governor who was in charge or who was acting who was leading on an acting capacity to act in a full mandate of governor, to me is a big plus, because this now will seal the vacuums that could be there before. You know, we had a governor who also don't care and who could not care, because the crisis we are undergoing today are crises already created by the former governor. Because if the former governor could formally have appointed his deputy, I don't think Nairobi could have suffered all this. And all these nonsense that has been going all around the judiciary and whatever could not be there. I believe that this time round, whether it is 9 months to go, it is as good as good fruit for Nairobi, because Nairobi will need to have seal of those vacuums, so that at least what is theirs can be done, and what we call the resources that are supposed to be distributed down there can be distributed fairly without now these matters to do with court cases. I would also say that Kananu is one of the lucky women, because surely Nairobi was purported to have an by-election. It's only that by the history of the court verdict that she found herself on the right hand of becoming becoming a governor not through the elected process, but through that element of nomination. I have heard from her that actually she was confessing that Governor Sonko was not willing to make her deputy. But another, those who probably was the handles that has been there until last 1 week, when the Supreme Court decided to water down all what Sonko preferred to have articulated at the Supreme Court. In the element of the management of the city, I would also say Kananu at this particular point in time has very little command in terms of issues to do with tackling issues to do with what the governor's mandate in the city. Taking into consideration that actually most of the major factions are already transferred factions, and those factions as they are transferred, they are under the major general, and therefore Kananu has little say in terms of those management of those resources. What I would say is that the little mandate she has, she need to make sure that actually the county is in tandem with what little capacity he has, because the only area that he can command is those areas of ICDs and few other areas. And I don't think that actually those are areas that are strong, because if you look where the major areas are is infrastructure, health sector, and all these, and those are factions that does not align with her currently. But fortunately enough, if she maybe managed to recoup to become the next governor, maybe if she used to contest in 2022, probably she will reap the fruits, considering that in fact the budget making the budget proposals here have shown us, as you have indicated.
Does she stand a chance?
I would say Nairobians actually will look for somebody who probably, I think this time around, who is not a person of euphoria, but I think that this time around, because they have run a lot, they must look for a serious contender who is a serious manager, because I believe that for sure you may elect euphoria candidate, and euphoria candidate who cannot go. Surely it is Sonko himself who asked the head of state to take over some factions from the country. That tells you that actually he found that he is not capable of making the county to the direction that actually he was expected by the law, and therefore that is why he sought for a helper to assist him in that particular area.
But speaking of euphoria, Mheshimiwa, let me just cut you short there. Speaking of euphoria, isn't that what the members of the United Democratic Alliance are riding on right now?
One thing that I'll tell you is that, in fact, where people must go right is during those nominations. They must nominate somebody who feels that he has capacity and ability to take the city mantle. Not only that, actually somebody has, the drama and those other side issues cannot take this city anywhere. And I believe Nairobi has learned a case study. And I think this case study will take them to the next level, where they must decide who is capable of taking this particular matter. Sure, I am not talking, euphoria is okay. But when, as euphoria is there, let us be euphoria of the party.
Okay.
Let not become an euphoria of an individual because of his, maybe, his side issues. But at least somebody who has an euphoria, but euphoria based with the capability and ability to lead, because that's what we are lacking. And if we are not going to be serious enough in the next election, we may get duped to the same route, where we find ourselves in another Sonko. So it's my wish that actually Nairobi has learned, and we will take time and decide who is capable of taking them to the next level. Okay. And finally, let me say this. Nairobi as it is, even though now currently it's under the hands of NMS, I cannot say that Nairobi is excellent moving to the right direction. Because NMS, it's like it has nobody to check them. Because the county is like the county assembly has no mandate over the same. This is an agency which is anchored at the level of the central government, where the national government, also in parliament, we don't have a committee that has those powers to check or oversight the works of this particular NMS. And most of the things has been working in haphazard way, and nobody can be able to make a question on this. So I would say it's better when we have a proper way of doing our things, where we can be able to take governor to his horns and question him. But if you have somebody who is above and nobody is able to reach him, nobody is able to question, then this is an agency which can be misused. And I can say this is not the route we know.
So you're saying the route in Nairobi can be attributed to the national government, because NMS basically is the national government.
Sure, what we need is that during the time of this particular constitution of the amalgamation of inauguration of this agency, there has to be clear mandate, whether it is parliament, which will be oversighting the same body, or whether it's a county assembly, because as it is now, it is not neither here nor there. And
the reason why I asked you that is because the national government was formed by the Jubilee Party, which until recently you belonged to. But now let's move on to a different topic altogether. I want to talk about the One Kenya Alliance.
I would like to make a comment on this.
Okay, very briefly though.
Yes. But I thought I'm here to make comments on the topics.
Yes, you're here to make comments.
You have to give me a fair hearing, because you give my two colleagues a chance to make a comment on this. Now, while I'm very happy that we are seeing more women leaders emerging to take serious leadership positions, I'm also saddened by the state of devolution. Because if you look at the Constitution of Kenya, there is a lacuna on some sections of that Constitution. And one of them is what the Mheshimiwa is alluding to. If you look at Article 187, that anchors the transfer of functions from one level of government to another, then you realize that there was a clear lacuna in what the drafters of the Constitution never envisioned to be the actual in terms of defending the spirit of devolution. So in this case, you've had there were functions that were transferred from the county government to the national government as it is envisaged in that article, but there are no clear accountability mechanisms to ensure that those functions that have been transferred from the county government to the national government are clearly followed in terms of accountability. That's why you're hearing that question being raised on which entity is supposed to check the transferred functions. And in this case, and I think this is where Mheshimiwa Gakuya comes in, we should see an amendment or a law that should be created or sponsored in Parliament on managing or putting accountability mechanism on the functions that will be transferred either in the case of Nairobi County Government or going forward. Because in future we'll see more transfers, perhaps. Maybe a county government will say we are unable to perform these functions, and then there is need for the national government to take over these functions. And if you look at the functions that were transferred, these are critical functions that affect, they take even more than 80% of the budget, because the principle of devolution is that resources follow functions. So in the first place is that the functions were already allocated to the county governments, but the governor, the former governor, voluntarily transferred those functions without consultation of the county assembly or the people of Nairobi. So this is a case that we must be very vigilant about. And secondly, if you look at the criminal enterprise, in my opinion, that is called NMS, that was created unilaterally.
Why are you calling it the criminal enterprise?
It is a criminal enterprise because it does not have a direct mandate of the people in the name of NMS, because it was created out of the executive office of the president, invoking the presidential powers against what the people of Nairobi had chosen. So clearly NMS is a criminal enterprise, and President Uhuru Kenyatta should be very careful. When he exits office, he will see a litany of court cases over the decisions he took while he was in office. So this is one of the classic example of an enterprise that has been allocated billions of money, spending money belonging to the public without clear accountability mechanism. So NMS, in the face of the law, in my opinion, is a criminal enterprise that is created by an illegal process that did not involve public participation.
Okay, so
just a quick one. That part is very important, because I am in a county assembly. What my two brothers here are saying is very simple. What the Constitution looks at, in the spirit and in the letter of it, is the issue of checks and balances. The question that begs for an answer here, and this is what my brother Akwi is asking: who oversights NMS, for example? It is not the Assembly. The Assembly has no direct mandate under any law to oversight NMS, whereas it is the Assembly that is supposed to oversight the governor and the entire leadership. So it ought to have fallen within the transfer of function, whether it is the National Parliament that oversights NMS or is it the County Assembly. Okay. Number two, if you look at the audited reports finds their way to the peer committee in the Assembly. Now the question that begs for an answer is, after the Auditor General does an audit of what LMS is doing, where do you take those audit reports? You can't take them to the Assembly, you can't take them to the National Assembly. So they will rest somewhere. So this could be, a lot of rot could be thriving within LMS. And when he calls it a criminal enterprise, I want to refer to it as such. It's because a lot of rot can exist within, NMS and go unnoticed.
So, gentlemen.
But I want to applaud. Sonko was not genuine in his nominating Kananu to be the deputy governor. Actually, what Sonko was looking for was a person to manipulate. All right, from his home, because it was bad from going to office. But I want to applaud Kananu because she has showcased her ability, and that's a plus for women. So what she needs to do is, within these 9 months, prove that really a woman can ascend to be a governor, in Nairobi, and still has the capacity to do as much as men can do. So I think that I want to applaud her as far as that is concerned.
So, gentlemen, and I wanted to say that you're both entitled to your opinion, but not to facts. So, time now for a very, very short break. We'll be back. We want to talk about the One Kenya Alliance months to the election. No presidential candidate, no signal or signs of this white smoke from the One Kenya Alliance house. We are going to delve into that in a few, so don't go away.
Entrepreneurs around the country are creatively grinding.
I started with a borrowed phone.
A borrowed phone?
Yeah, that could last 2 hours with charge.
We just have to do quality work for them.
To make their mark in an unpredictable market.
It was now going on a sales venture, looking for stockists, door to door.
On the grind, we bring you their stories so you can tell yours. Every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Men are known to be the pillars.
We're rising up together.
Say your point. You need an alpha male now to come and help you and your girl.
Ameongea zero.
And women, they are the cornerstone that hold the pillars.
Don't be entitled. A man is peaceful, a man knows how to talk to a lady.
This November, the Men's Conference brings a cocktail of diverse ladies to weigh in on various matters.
Something I'd love more to see is men being able to exist as themselves.
Tune in every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
Hello guys, and welcome to Night In with Joy Irungu. Joy Irungu.
Heartbreak, pain, and tears have been a major part of Night In Season 1. We thank you for being with us on this journey. And for this upcoming season, we will bring you more empowering stories that not everyone is talking about.
This is the only show where we keep it authentic. We share our lifetime experiences, and you know what? Tell every person that you can turn your pain into power.
Join Joy Irongo on Night 10 as we take the brave step of sharing.
The road to 2022 is becoming tougher.
Nyuma ya wheelbarrow kuna economic model.
And trickier with each passing day.
Niliwaambia washushe chini bei ya mafuta.
Political aspirants in a dilemma whether to change allegiance or not.
How has Raila and the handshake made Jubilee lose focus?
You've seen Raila Odinga flying military choppers.
Our people have never been called to Uhuru Park to unite. They have always united out of their own volition.
Reduce your madness.
Kenyans are suffering.
Would it be fair to conclude? I don't want your station to be sued.
That Jubilee government has never been able to sponsor any successful project.
Every Monday at 9:30 p.m., Pundits Night brings you inclusive and candid conversations.
47, the home of untold stories. Atif47KE is our Twitter handle. At Eric_Nene is my Twitter handle. Join in the conversation. Now, let's talk about the One Kenya Alliance. There's seemingly confusion and a lot of bickering, a lot of infights, ultimatums, and I'm directing this to you because you are in ANC. No presidential candidate, a substantive one, months to the election. You're already giving each other ultimatums. What is really happening?
First of all, One Kenya Alliance is a concept. It is not yet formally registered with the Registrar of Political Parties.
Okay.
So there is still a lot of thinking that's going around to this concept of One Kenya Alliance. Basically, if you study the politics of coalition making, people don't just decide on candidate. There has to be a structured way of arriving at decisions. So we have this concept. We have already formulated the drafts in terms of the common policy platform, what will constitute the common manifesto for the coalition, because all the parties that are forming this alliance have their own individual manifestos. We have an ANC manifesto called Uchumi Bora, Pesa Mfukoni manifesto, Wiper has their own, KANU, and the case to Ford Kenya. So we are still at the preliminary stages of trying to find what is the common, first of all, policy platform, and secondly, what is the formula of naming a flag bearer. And I happen to sit in the technical committee that is crafting the formula of naming a flag bearer for the alliance. Now, we have come up with some parameters. And these parameters, we don't want to disclose to the public because politics, if those of us, all of us here in politics, we know the tactics. You cannot name until the right time. Okay. So I want to urge the public to wait that at the right time, we will name. We already have the formula. We have projected the scenarios in terms of the combination for the tickets. If we have X on top of the ticket and Y below the ticket, then which is the best combination that can win or secure an OCA government? So the public should wait, should be patient, because we are also monitoring what our competitors are doing in the field. And at the right time, we will name a candidate. But that is the case.
Who are your competitors?
But we know the competitors. We know the major political parties.
No, in your own opinion.
Right now, we have 3 major political parties in Kenya. We have ANC, we have ODM, and we have UDA. Because Jubilee Party is now a shell of its former self. It cannot even hold a leadership or even a caucus. It cannot even do basic caucusing to support a certain bill in parliament or anything else. So in this case, and internally as One Kenya Alliance, and coming from ANC Party, we are positioning Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi as the best pick for certain reasons. Number one, he brings the national profile in terms of being the unifying factor. We know his demeanor, we know his character. Number two, he has a track record. We have seen when he has been allocated responsibilities, all the way when he was Minister of Finance, to Minister of Transport, to local government, we have seen a track record. And we are telling our partners that we are...
He got dented while he was the Minister of Local Government.
With what case?
the Mavoko?
The Mavoko scandal. Yes. I expected that question when I mentioned the Minister of Local Government because remember the way the Minister of Local Government was working, and Mheshimiwa Gakuya is here and is a member, he has been in politics in the city. That time, there used to be county councils. Then there was the Ministry for Local Government. When a county council takes a decision, then the Minister of Local Government was dented because that clear case was the mayor that time bought land on behalf of the Nairobi City Council. And since Musalia Mudavadi was the Minister for Local Government, he was involved because of what we call taking collective responsibility. But he was not directly involved. And that mayor was convicted for that particular case because these are facts that are already documented. And even the case with the Golden Bag scandal, I know many people will raise that, the issue of Golden Bag scandal against Musalia Mudavadi. There is a public report on the Judicial Commission of Inquiry by Justice Onyanja, the retired Justice Bosire, who has given out a public report on the issue of Golden Bag. And in that report, and I want members of the public to read this, go to page 197, where they exonerate Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi and praise him for having stopped the Golden Bag scandal. And they put the blame squarely on Raila's father, the late, may he rest in peace, because they say now it is Jaramogi Oginga Odinga as the chairman of Public Accounts Committee who was telling members of the public that stop being jealous of the business acumen of Kamlesh Patni. And he protected Kamlesh Patni, who was the main architect for the scandal. Now, the candidate we are bringing the country is a unifier, a man of peace, and somebody who has a track record. So we are convincing and persuading our partners that we are giving you a candidate who will not learn on the job, but he will do the job once given an opportunity. And this is a message to the country. Giving ultimatums doesn't seem like, convincing. Doesn't seem like convincing your partners. Your ANC has already given out ultimatums that, if we are not going to have a presidential candidate by this time, then ours is going to assume that position automatically. But let's just leave it at that. Mheshimiwa, let me take it to you. The ultimatums we are giving is that because if you look at the timings, we have about less than 10 months to the general elections. And we better know the candidate now so that we start campaigning for the candidate and putting the architecture. But as a party called ANC, we have already put the infrastructure for Musalia's presidential campaigns. Already we have named and we've given people assignments. We are packaging his presidential campaign manifesto and all this. So whether One Kenya Alliance works or not, we are going to have a president called Musalia Mudavadi on the ballot next year, and we are going to seek a direct mandate from the people, irrespective of the coalition. And the weakest link that we have right now in One Kenya Alliance is KANU. You cannot invite people into the alliance. Why is it the weakest? KANU is now the weakest link in Oka politics, because you cannot say One Kenya Alliance is willing to have discussions and negotiations with Raila Amolo Odinga and ODM when they are not even members of this idea called One Kenya Alliance. So ODM should first join One Kenya Alliance, and before they join, we have to vet them. We have to look at their history. What did they do in previous coalitions? Because recently, we were in NASA coalition with them, and we know the betrayal they meted on the Kenyan people. We were all walking to Canaan. They lived at River Jordan, and then they dashed the hopes of millions of Kenyans who are walking to Canaan to eat milk and honey. So we have to look at the people we admit into the alliance. And this is what we are saying. We want to broaden the alliance, but we want to broaden the alliance with people who are progressive and forward-thinking in terms of bringing on board the trade unionists, the women movement, the youth movements, the grassroots organizations, so that we have an omnibus alliance that does not only bring political parties, but it brings trade unionists and all these people that I've talked about. So an alliance, it's not just about political parties, and it cannot just because of Raila Amolo Odinga or other candidates like William Ruto. We must have people who have like mind. And when we are forming these kind of alliances, we have also to look at the electoral performance of our party. Because, for example, in the NASA alliance, that alliance disadvantaged our party, because when we were going for the NASA rallies, they used to come out as ODM rallies. And we lost many seats, parliamentary seats, county assembly seats, and gubernatorial seats because of being in NASA alliance. So the ANC party is carefully evaluating the alliances that we get into, because we also want to win seats other than the presidency. So the alliance called One Kenya Alliance, we are in the business of winning seats and want to form government. So we will be very careful on the alliances that we and the people we engage. Okay, so Mheshimiwa Gakuya, you are in UDA. You guys seem like it's all systems go. You think time is running out for the One Kenya Alliance?
I still think they have an opportunity because time is not over yet. Though at some point in politics, there has to be two areas of consideration. One is entry point and exiting point. At the point we are in, we have seen a very united OCA under that umbrella of three parties. This is KANU and WIPA and ANC. But one thing I would say is that we have seen Musalia Mudavadi somehow publicly complaining that actually there is what we call state interference. And I would say that where there is a state head, that state arm is out, if it's out to twist, can easily mess the unity between this OCA team. So what I would wish is that if they are really willing to succeed in their unity, one thing they must embrace what we call sacrifice, because not all of them can be able to fit in the position of the president. There has to be, because we have heard Caroso very briefly saying he has to be in the ballot as a presidential candidate. Then here we have Musalia Mudavadi, and then we have Gideon here. I am very sure that in fact they cannot all of them be at the same seat at the same time. And therefore, there are two mechanisms that can bring them united and find a candidate and a suitable one. One, they may decide, yes, let us go delegate way. And whoever will create the majority delegate then takes the flag bearer, and whoever becomes the second takes automatic.
What do you think stops them from doing that right now?
I also still think that actually within their strategies, they have their what we call inner methodologies, and according to those who are doing their arithmetics, probably they have not reached that particular level. I think that in fact those who are the technical rights are still looking for the best fashion to make them remain united and still achieve their goal. And probably there can be a mechanism which does not cost a lot all that particular way, because if there can be a team that can be able to sit together and at least advise them together and find it goes one, there is a lot of pressure. Now this pressure is, if it's in Mudavadi, he has pressure from his backyard. That this team want, yes, don't back down. If it is the other side of Eastern, they still have a pressure. The other man has a pressure from the backyard that don't back down. But if those teams can be able to give them at least flexibility, there can be an easy way of achieving their goal. But when the pressure is too much, then the pressure can make them out of that particular roadmap. I still think that between now and February, they cannot reorganize themselves if the state head or state arm is not going to be there. Because I am sure that there are some, I would say within them, there can be what we call most within, which is not their purpose for the goals of their unity, but most that are being planted there, just to make sure that they disorganize them, and at the end of the day, there is a part which will be break out and move to another side. And if that is the case, they have to be very, very watchful. And I'm not afraid by saying ANC sometimes taking some back to it, because surely you must also ask yourself, are we still in the same goal? Are we still in the same mind? Or are we still together to the end? If you are running some mischief, then you must be twice shy. Because surely you must understand that this team has come from NASA, and they have an experience of what NASA has just taken them out, and they are not ready to go to the same route again. But I am sure that if they are all genuine enough, and probably KANU is serious enough, then they can be able to make what it is due to them. But still, if there are some people willing that the route, because I am very sure Gideon is a good friend of Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. I don't know at what point that their friendship will fail not to be at the same camp at the end of the day. But if the time has come and still KANU is willing to be in OCA, then I am sure that the team can be able to sail through at the end.
Okay, so let's shift our focus now to page 4 of the standard.
Before we leave that, I
very briefly, I have a specific question tailored just
For me, but yes. That is a mayor. I want to take a different route, and I want to ask myself, where did Oka come from? Because that is where it begins. Oka was not a creation of those principles. It is never a thought of those principles. They never sat anywhere and agreed we need to form an alliance. Oka is a creation of State House.
That is not true.
Allow me, I'm entitled to my opinion. We saw those principles being called at State House, and then there was a creation of Oka. So these are not independent people who sat down and thought, actually Oka was supposed to bring in muscle at the BBI initiative, so that when BBI would be realized, then they'll share out the seats. So it was never an intention of Gideon Moi and Musalia Mudavadi and all of them.
You actually answered my question, because you're the only member of county assembly who voted no for BBI.
It was never intended to win an election. It was never intended, and there would never be anything called Oka registered. Look at this. You watch this, and you realize it is going to break at some point. Because all of them will realize that Oka is not realizable. It was not our idea. It was supposed to bring in muscle at the creation of BBI. BBI has flopped. It is not there, and therefore they can't hold together. Look at Gideon Moi right now. He's hell bent to Raila Amolo Odinga. Look at Kalonzo. Kalonzo could be joining UDA very soon after realizing that he cannot realize much out of this thing. Mudavadi, of course, knows he can't do this alone. So this thing, and you look at where the election is, and you haven't realized a presidential candidate to this moment, and you look at how big this country is and running a campaign. So this is not something that is holds in the water.
Two quick reactions to his statements. Number one.
So basically, now the BBI has flopped, and what was supposed to be shared out by the Oka people and all of you, and the creation of State House would not be realized. So I do not see Oka going anywhere. I support Musalia Mudavadi is a very strong candidate. Quite that much I agree in terms of the way he looks at things and what have you. But in terms of having the political muscle and the goodwill by the people, I saw him in the mountain trying to claim the mountain the other day. I don't know whether he even did a single step up the mountain. But this was not an original idea of the principles of the so-called Oka. This was a creation of some other forces that were supposed to bring in muscle at the BBI. BBI has flopped, and these guys are now confused. They do not know what to do.
So Mungare, NMS and Oka, same WhatsApp group?
No. I want to disagree with it. Just two quick ones. Yep. Number one, One Kenya Alliance was not a creation of State House. There is nobody in this country who has the monopoly of ideas or the reserve of knowledge. And we all know Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi has been an author of many things, including Jubilee Party, which they belong to. Yeah. Jubilee Party was a creation.
But the validation was in State House.
Let him
the validation was in State House. We saw them they all lined up and
I'll let you react to
the president.
Now, if he's saying a meeting with the president, because he was not in those meetings, he doesn't know what was discussed in those meetings. Just by a mere virtue of taking a photo with the president, doesn't allude to the fact that Oka came from State House. If I was to use the same yardstick, the deputy president has been meeting the president for a long time. In fact, he's his deputy. If that is the yardstick of taking photos and meeting the president, then we should also say UDA is a creation of State House, or these are, because that is not that cannot be the yardstick of judging. One Kenya Alliance. I'm in the technical committee that's fine tunes most of these things. One Kenya Alliance is a creation of the four political parties that have founded this coalition, and the major agenda of One Kenya Alliance that created the name Oka is the idea of uniting this country behind a peaceful transfer of power and behind ensuring that there is no chaos and bloodshed. That is the major agenda. And you've seen Raila Odinga has copy-pasted the One Kenya or Oka in Kiswahili Azimio la Umoja. So can you translate Azimio la Umoja to English? It is One Kenya. So we are seeing all this copy-pasting from all these players. The second part is that I want to thank him for appreciating at least that Mheshimiwa Musalia Mudavadi leads among them all in the pack. Because in 2013, Musalia Mudavadi ran for the presidency and he came third. And at least that was a good trial. Now in the second circle, I'm telling you this, that Musalia Mudavadi will be on the ballot next year. And if that is the case, whether One Kenya lands or not, he will be on the ballot. And if that is the case, you're going to see. And all of us, we have agreed here that if Raila is the lead candidate, sponsored by the state, because we can clearly see Raila is a state candidate now, is a state agent, is being taken over to the Mount Kenya people. If that is a candidate, then you can be sure that the state will fail, if that is a state candidate. But if the candidate is Musalia Mudavadi, he will neutralize and climb the mountain easily, because the people of Mount Kenya call him Masharia, Mtu wa kutafuta tafuta, and you all agree
He'll
that
call himself Mashari when he gets there.
Okay,
No, it is not us who call him. It is him.
Guys, we're running out of time. Gentlemen, I want us to shift our focus to page 4 of the Standard. And you're talking about Raila. Here he is defending his plan for social protection fund, and he has told of critics saying that millions of Kenyans will receive a 6,000 monthly stipend once he is elected to president. Your thoughts on that?
First of all, it cannot work.
Why?
First of all, you can never create a welfare state as at now, because a welfare state is very expensive. When you say you want to introduce, because this sort of a social assistance program, it can never work in a country that cannot even support its own budget. If you look at the expenditure of government today, and you look at the public debt vis-a-vis our needs, this program cannot work because it will require billions of shillings to run this program. And that means either we will increase taxes or we will borrow. We will increase borrowing. So this cannot work simply because we don't have the money to support such a program. And this creates a welfare mentality among the people. Let us not proceed to the angle of creating a welfare mentality or a welfare state, especially to the young people. Because if you're saying that you'll be giving 6,000 to young people every month or whichever period, you're telling them that the state can donate you. And there is this saying that goes, that you rather teach somebody how to fish than giving them fish, because when you run out of fish, you can no longer sustain a welfare state.
Okay,
so this is a prerequisite to countries that have failed or economic programs that cannot work. So basically, what Raila is proposing is that the government will increase borrowing or increase taxes to sustain such a program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mheshimiwa Gakuya, to you, very briefly, wheelbarrow or 6,000 shillings?
What I can say very quickly is that in fact there is two different models, and the model that actually is suggested by Honorable Raila Odinga is the model that actually we have currently, which is the cash transfer. And that cash transfer, we have seen the government not even capable of managing to sustain the 2,000 that are meant for the elderly in the right times and good time. So I also concur with my friend that actually that particular kitty may be somehow difficult depending on where we are and how our economic situation is. Number two, what I think is important to our people is to enable them to work, but not to use some kickbacks to them as if they are goodies. Because until what time should you sustain to give them that direct cash of 6,000 free money? That free money is not manageable. But I can tell you, a kitty that is a revolvable kitty that actually earns some interest back to the state is a kitty that can be manageable. So I would say, even though we talk about the bottom up, we cannot at any single day say that we have a free money to those traders. It can't happen unless it's a kitty that actually which loans and which at least earn some interest, so that at least at the end of the day there's something back to the kitty. Okay. But if it's a free money, it's not. And I'm telling you, it cannot be managed in the current situation we are.
Mheshimiwa, you interact with wananchi at the ward level. Is it realistic?
I think it's the most absurd thought that Raila Odinga has. Because we're looking at 6,000, not per person, but per household. What's the size of a normal household? We're talking about 7 people or thereabout. So you're talking about less than 1,000 per person in a household in a month. All right? Yeah. That is not sustainable in the sense of that you're giving them money not to actually inject into the economy and do business and probably return that money. You're just giving money for basic needs, to eat and to do all those things. So in the millions of people who are living under poverty and below the poverty line, so when you give 6,000 to a household, it's not sustainable. That is not, we're looking at a country where we've declared hunger as a national disaster. So do we look for money to feed our people in the sense that we need to revamp the economy from the agricultural sector to building of dams, to making sure that we revamp the economy by bringing back agriculture back to life, or giving 6,000 to a household? And I've told you a normal household in Kenya will house about 6 people. So that means less than 1,000 in a day. So I'm looking at the bottoms-up approach, which it invites our young people and the people at Mashinani to borrow some money. And when you borrow money, you don't borrow money for eating. You borrow money to go and inject in business. And that way, there's going to be a revolving fund that will continue growing daily and make sure that we revamp an economy. So I think this is the most sad thing I've had, and I am seeing people applaud him for that, and I'm looking at them. I wish they would break that down to their own cases, and they realize that they're being duped as they're being taken to another canon that will never realize.
Okay.
You know, yes.
Yes. We have less than 3 minutes to end the show. Just on that page, Kiraitu and Munya have been asked to decamp as Deputy President Ruto ends his tour of Meru. Yesterday, the Deputy President said that all governors support him, but they do it, like we say in Mtaani, chini ya maji, for fear of being harassed. Very briefly, Mheshimiwa.
I would just say that, in fact, the Deputy President has every democratic right to woo and persuade those who are preparing other support to other candidates to himself, because actually by doing so he just want to solidify the Mount Kenya region, because Mount Kenya region is one of the Jubilee, Rift Valley and Mount Kenya were two blocks of the Jubilee success in the last two elections. And at this particular juncture, he also feels that actually if he can solidify back the Mount Kenya region, it can give you a stepping stone toward his winning goal. And at this particular time, what do you do with the people who are learning something out of your box? It is to woo them and persuade them back. And therefore, the message is not about the message; is a message to persuade, so that at least as a team you can solidify yourself to the greater number of success.
Thank you very much. Let me engage him. Do you think the Deputy President has the backing of all the governors?
No, he doesn't have. That is a claim
Very
anybody
briefly.
can make. Anybody can make that claim. But what is important is that every party should be able to sell their manifesto to the people directly, because we want to move the politics from personality based. We want the people to start choosing real ideas, and that's why, as a party called ANC, we are positioning an agenda called Uchumi Bora kwa wote, pesa mfukoni. That is our economic philosophy. Unlike bottom up and the social assistance, as we are saying, let us grow the economy so that everybody has the means to serve themselves.
Okay.
So I think I'll end with pitch 4, because when Kiraitu and Munya are being warned by the Deputy President to come to his party, I think that is normal for every politician to call out for people to come and join hands and make sure that the party is big enough to win a presidential election. What I would wish to tell you is that Kiraitu and Munya, Munya is serving his servant right now, so he has to go to an extent that it's in the wee hours of the dispensation that you see him change route if he's willing to vie for the governorship, because everybody will reach to the ground. Kiraitu as well is only buying time because what has been transpiring to governors who seemed to be on the other side. So he's still there for political survival. But when time is right, Kiraitu is not a fool. He's a political good when he's been there for quite some time. So when time is right to get to February and March, there's going to be a major exodus from many other political parties, and also by the central politicians to UDA, because that is what the ground is all about. So he's there for political survival. Come March, May, then he will decamp. I can assure you that. We'll still be here. I will tell you, I will remind you of this day. Will you say, I've listened to my people, they've come and they've told me, if you want to be elected, then this is going to be the route. And then you say, I have an option, I have to listen to my people. And he has done that again. So he has dipped the bus and what have you. So it's not new to Kiraitu to survive at a certain place and then change, shifts at a certain point. So I think this is normal. The Deputy President is calling out everybody, and of course on his behalf today, because also a hot bill for him, I would invite people to come and join UDA. Let's make sure that we clinch the presidency next year. We need everybody on board, so including my brother here. There's a bus that's destined for the president, and there are a lot of spaces.
He seems to have declined your...
You could be the next speaker for...
He's declined your invitation on live TV.
In the Hustlers mansion, there are a lot of rooms, and we can accommodate...
I'm running for Member of Parliament, North Mogrango next year.
Oh, nice. I wish you well. I didn't know that.
And my main competitor that I'm going to unseat is a UDA candidate.
Okay.
So definitely I will not join UDA, because the area MP who is a UDA and who is going home is, I can't join
in Mogrango. I understand your affiliation. Yes.
I've already sold my manifesto to the people, and I've already made it clear my party is ANC. So the people of North Mogrango, I have 1 out of 3 chances of becoming an MP, but not in UDA.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much, James Gakuya, the MP for Embakasi North, Anthony Ikonya, MCA Kiambu Township, and Nathaniel Mungare. He said he's no longer a youth leader at ANC.
We have a youth leader called and I'm now the director of ICT and programs in the party.
Congratulations for the promotions. So, time now to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll mellow down a bit, talk about everything relationships in the next segment. Keep it here.
Entrepreneurs around the country are creatively grinding.
I started with a borrowed phone.
A borrowed phone?
Yeah, that could last 2 hours with charge.
We just have to do quality work for them.
To make their mark in an unpredictable market.
It was now going on a sales venture, looking for stockists door to door.
On the grind, we bring you their stories so you can tell yours. Every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Men are known to be the pillars.
We're rising up together. Say your point. You need an alpha male now to come and help you and your girl.
Ameongea zero.
And women, they are the cornerstone that hold the pillars.
Don't be entitled. A man is peaceful, a man knows how to talk to a lady.
This November, the Men's Conference brings a cocktail of diverse ladies to weigh in on various matters.
Something I'd love more to see is men being able to exist as themselves.
Tune in every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
Hello guys, and welcome to Night In with Joy Irungu. Joy Irungu.
Heartbreak, pain, and tears have been a major part of Night In Season 1. We thank you for being with us on this journey, and for this upcoming season, we will bring you more empowering stories that not everyone is talking about.
This is the only show where we keep it authentic. We share our lifetime experiences, and you know what? Tell every person that you can turn your pain into power.
Join Joy Irungu on Night In as we take the brave step of sharing.
The road to 2022 is becoming tougher.
Nyuma ya wheelbarrow kuna economic model.
And